Hey everybody, Lee here with LG Speed and Custom, and welcome to part 3 of Shannon's 302 swap in her 61 Comet. If you're new to this channel, this is Shannon's 1961 Comet. This was her daily driver for years, up until recently when the 170 inline 6 and the Cruise-O-Matic 2-speed transmission just straight up wore out. So she went and bought a $300 1991 Mustang 5-liter, cleaned it all up, dressed it all up to look like a more period correct small block Ford. 289 is what she was going for. She picked the color. The whole car is slowly going this color, one piece at a time. So we're going to start, or continue, I should say, swapping this in. For those unfamiliar with Comets, especially the 6061s, they're a pretty unique car with the cool cat eye tail lights. Don't confuse this with a Mercury Comet. This is its own entity, just a Comet. It was originally supposed to be part of the Edsel family, but as we all know, Edsel did not make it. So we left off on the last video a little short because we ran into some flex plate troubles. Now this is a 1991 302, which means it has the 50-ounce balancer on it, so you need a 50-ounce flex plate. It didn't have a flex plate when Shannon picked it up, so I just went to the auto parts store and ordered a 1991 Mustang flex plate. I actually gave it to Shannon for Valentine's Day because I'm that romantic. So we put it on. In the last video, we went to mate the transmission to the engine and discovered it does not fit. This is a 164 tooth flex plate, and a 164 tooth flex plate does not fit a CO4 or a C4. It fits an AOD. So anything AOD, which I think was 1982 and up, uses a 164. Anything older than that, the C4 does not use the 164. So quite a few people, multiple people, commented on that video and said, oh, here's the flex plate you need. It's made by Art Car. This is it here. I ordered it right away. It's 141 tooth with the 50-ounce balancer on it. This thing, by the time this thing landed here, because we live in Canada, so we got to pay like extra shipping. We got to pay tax once it crosses the border, all that stuff. By the time this thing actually landed here, it was $300. $300 flex plate. We're like, yes, we finally got the piece. Nope, wrong, way too small. So there's $300 down the drain. I mean, we can send it back, but we're not going to get any of our shipping money back, and we have to pay to ship it back. So unfortunately in Canada, when you order the wrong parts, you're kind of just stuck with them. It's not worth shipping them back. So I did a bunch of research and found out that I just need a 157 tooth flywheel or flex plate with a 50-ounce weight on it. I got this one here, SFI certified, $90 shipped to my door from Amazon Speed Shop. And that is the correct one. It lines up with our torque converter bolts. It fits in here really nice. Finally, third time's the charm, we got it. Also, if you'll remember from our last video, we didn't have the torque converter yet. So we got this one from Royce at Island Torque Converter. Great guy to deal with. If you're in the Vancouver Island area and need a torque converter, he's your guy, Island Torque Converters. So then we had another problem. This is, I don't know why Ford uses these, no idea at all. The only thing I can think of is that some engineer somewhere screwed up and made the bell housing too short, so they made this to compensate for it. But this goes on the back of the block, then your flex plate goes on, and then the transmission goes on. Well, this is, once again, for a 91 Mustang. And when we fit it up to the C4, the starter opening was way over here. So rather than buy another one, because these things, I put a wanted ad up yesterday and somebody's all like, oh yeah, I got one, $100 and it's yours. Well, I don't think so, man. This is like a $20 part in my opinion. So I really wanted to work on the car this weekend, so I got impatient, and Jim, who helps me out in the shop here, earlier today, Jim just cut it apart, sliced it down, and made it fit. So this is going to work fine. All right, now you're all caught up. It's Thursday night right now. Shannon's actually at work. She's not even here. She doesn't even know I've got the car in the shop yet. So it's Thursday night. I think tomorrow morning we're going to start fresh. Put the block plate on, put the flex plate on, bolt the engine and transmission together, and then in the car it goes. So see you in the morning. Good morning. It's Friday, and we're going to start on this thing now. First thing we're going to do is put the new flex plate on the engine and the block plate, bolt the engine and transmission together. But before we do that, we're going to move the Roadster outside so we can get the forklift in. Unfortunately, it is just starting to rain. The environmentalists are happy it's raining because it hasn't rained in almost 100 days. So they're happy about it. Us Roadster people, not so happy about it, but whatever. It's like a free car wash. So let's move that out, get the forklift in so we can pick this guy up. So while I was about to put the flex plate on, I realized the throwout bearing, or pilot bearing from when this had a 5-speed behind it, was still in there. And it was by far the most stubborn pilot bearing I've ever had to get out. It came out in multiple chunks, ended up welding bolts to it using a slide hammer, which was actually Shannon's idea. She's pretty smart sometimes. So, all right, now we can put the flex plate on. I got my baby by my side. I push the gas and make her laugh. The back of staring back at me. I'm making fast, yeah, I'm taking it slow. I take the band with all I know, and then we're ready to go. So I roll, yeah, roll, then I roll. Yeah, we may run away. This is over too. Come on, roll, yeah, roll, then I roll. All right, we got the flex plate on, the block plate on. These are all torqued and Loctited. We're ready to put the transmission on. Shannon has joined us. She is working from home today. So by working from home, she's working from my bench. Okay, got to take these nuts off and then lift this guy and book. Okay, we just hit a major milestone. The engine, transmission, torque converter, and starter are all one unit. This is exciting. This was very frustrating to get to this point. So we're going to jack the car up, put it up on jack stands nice and high in the air, and then we'll slide this thing in and see how it fits. All right, we're up on jack stands, nice and high off the ground. We're going to drop this thing in now. So I put a 302 in a 63 Comet years ago, and this cross steering shaft here, I had to unbolt that and flip it around so it came up from the underside just to gain a little bit of clearance. So I'm assuming I'm probably going to have to do that with this. That cross shaft and this cross member right here, which unbolts by the way, are really the only things I can see being a problem. But before we take those out, we'll drop it in there first and just see. Maybe they won't be an issue. I'm assuming they will be though. So far, it's not going too bad. Underneath here, we're going to have to take the steering shaft off like I thought. I don't know if we need to modify it at all. I'm hoping that once we take it off, the engine will just drop down and come a little further back, and it might be okay. I don't know. But for now, to get this to come any further down, we do have to take it off. So that's not a huge deal. Okay, we're under here again, and we do have to take this cross member out because our exhaust manifold bolt is touching on this side. And if we go over to this side, our starter, right up there, our starter is making contact with it. So we'll pull this right out and move on. Remember when I said I'm probably gonna have to take those out? Well, I'm stubborn. Okay, so we've got that cross member out of there, and the engine dropped down and moved back, which is nice. So we're running into the other problem with putting a small block Ford in a 60 to 62 Vulcan or Comet. These cars never came with a V8 until 63, and the early ones, firewall, isn't clearanced for the V8 bell housing, which is the issue we're having right now. The bell housing is touching the firewall. So in a perfect world, I'd like this to drop down and go a little further back, but we're having issues with that, like I said, because of the firewall. So I grabbed the radiator and just did a quick mock-up on the rad here, and I think we actually don't really need to go further back because we've got quite a bit of room in front here. So I think we might. I'm really hoping that we can get away without cutting the firewall. I'm going to do a little bit more shuffling around and manipulating, see if I can get this to sit a little nicer. I've got the factory transmission crossmember bolted up in place here, and it lines right up where we want it to be, which is super cool. The one issue we do have is I can't go much higher. I can just barely get my fingers through the slip yoke there. So we don't want to go any higher. And we've got this transmission rubber. So this is 1 5/8 thick. And in here, we only have 1 3/8. So that's a 1/2 inch difference. So I think what I'm going to do is drill this mount to fit here. And then on the ends where it bolts up here, we can just drop this down, like put 1/2 inch spacers and drop it down a bit. And I think we'll be okay. So the cross member's out on the bench here. So these holes that we got to drill in it, they're 2 3/4 apart. So I measured and found the center line, and then went 1 3/8 off each side of that, which gives us 2 3/4. So we're going to drill our holes through there, and then those should go whoop, whoop, through the bottom. We do have a little bit of a situation on this side, because this emergency brake bracket is welded to the top, and that's going to be in the way, and we need as much space as possible in there. So I think we'll drill the hole from the other side, and then maybe just notch this out. Maybe put another weld across the bottom down here to hold it. I don't know how much we'll use the emergency brake with the car being an automatic, but I'd like to retain it. It worked. It saved Shannon once. When she first bought this car, the very first time she drove it, we didn't know it had been sitting for 16 years, and we had to drive it from Burnaby, BC, we had to catch a ferry to Nanaimo and then drive south to Nanaimo. So that was like probably a 2.5, 3 hour drive. And the first hill that Shannon came to, the very first time she drove the car, wheel cylinder blew. She lost all brakes, single reservoir master cylinder, pedal to the floor. So the emergency brake is what got us home. We drove the whole way home over top of the Malahat Mountain Pass, just using the emergency brake. It was fine. As soon as we got home, that was the very first upgrade that Shannon made to this car. Brakes work great now. Put you through the windshield. Well, there we go, Comet enthusiasts. That worked slick. Easy peasy. We got our transmission mount attached to the original cross member. Our emergency brake doodads are still going to work. The only thing we had to do was I put some 1/2 inch nuts in here to use as spacers and slightly longer bolts. That was it. For our slip yoke here, we've still got adequate clearance. It's tight, but I mean, this will never be going up and down, so it doesn't matter. Tight is okay. I think we'll move on to maybe looking at some front motor mounts now. So things are looking pretty good up here. This steering cross shaft, it went back in fine. We got plenty of room between the starter and the oil pan, so it worked out fine. Didn't have to modify it at all. That other cross member, it's not going to work just because it hits the exhaust manifold right where the donut is. So we'll have to build something for that a little bit later. I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. These motor mounts, these are the 6-cylinder mounts, and this hole are so close to working, it's frustrating. So frustrating because they're so close, but yet they're not quite right. So what I've done is I quickly drew up on the computer here one of these guys. This is just 16 gauge, and I just made this only because I'm going to use it kind of as a template. That way, if it's wrong, I mean, 16 gauge is considerably cheaper than 1/8" plate. So I think I'm going to cut 4 of those guys. Actually, see, this is why we made a template. It's a little bit right where my pinky is here. It's really close. So we might make another one that's like a 1/2 inch shorter. But anyways, I'm going to make 4 of these guys. So one goes there and one goes there. And then we'll put a flat plate across the top here with a hole in it. We can make another plate that goes from this motor mount bolt to that motor mount bolt with a hole in it. And then put like a little flathead Ford style motor mount rubber in there. And I think it'll work pretty good once we shorten it 1/2 inch. So I'll go make version 2 of that and we'll try it again. Okay, so Saturday morning now. Last night, before the end of the day, I cut out 4 of these guys. They bolt onto the mounts on the shock towers where the factory motor mounts used to be. Although the factory ones, they were only on one side. So this is bolts on both sides, like so. Now I just cut one of these guys. And this will bolt to the engine block, to the factory, just the factory bosses where the original motor mount would have went. So these are the flathead style rubbers that I want to use. This goes in through the bottom. This would sit on the motor mount. And then that will go through like such. Kind of like that. So that's going to bolt to the block. And then these I got to make a plate still where this washer is. But these will sit like that in the car. So I'm going to go test fit this piece, mock it up, make sure it works. These are 1/8" plate, and there will be, a third piece going across the top to join them, so it'll make like a little C-channel idea. And then these ones, because they just sit flat like that, I went heavier with them. I made them out of 1/4 inch plate, just because they're going to have all the weight of the engine sitting on them like that. So that's where we're at. It stopped raining, by the way, in case you were wondering. It's sunny out today, but a little bit chilly. Not that you guys care. Anyways, let's get to this.
All right, there's those pieces bolted in like I was just talking about. And then here's the piece that I just cut out, bolted to the bottom of the engine block. So now we just need to build a plate going across here that has this same kind of hole in it for this to slide in there.
I just cut out some plates. Here, and squared this one up. And I just tacked it. I want to tack it and try it first to make sure this is actually going to work. But essentially, this will get bolted to the shock tower. And then this guy goes up in there like that. And then this guy sits nice and snug, just like that. We got a nice little edge here to weld on. And then ta-da! Small block Ford motor mounts for a 61 to 63 Comet or Falcon. Maybe even a Fairlane too. I don't know if these will work in a Fairlane or not. All right, I'm going to tack this other one together, and then we'll bolt these back in the car and just test fit everything. But I think I am like 98% confident it'll be fine.
Survey says These are gonna work great. There's one side. There's the other side. Sorry, it's a little grainy. It's kind of dark under here. I'm gonna pull those out and weld them up now. Cool. There they are in there. That worked out really nice. I'm pretty stoked with these. You know what's super cool about these is since I drew them up on the computer, if anybody else needs a set, just get in touch with me on Instagram, LG Customs on Instagram, and I can easily cut out and weld another set of these. Look at the exhaust on this. Isn't that great? It comes out in such a nice spot. So these are 1963, 1 year only Falcon V8 manifolds. We got those at the Monroe swap meet. I think Shannon paid 50 bucks for the pair. And they work just perfect. All right, I think we're ready to put this thing down. Let the forklift down and see what happens.
Boom, there it is. Snug as a bug in a rug. I can just get my fingers through here. We've got bell housing clearance. It probably doesn't look like it in this clip here, but there is probably 3/8 of an inch from the top of the ribs on the bell housing to the firewall. So, a couple things that I've read on the internet in the last year. First thing I read was that a 12-valve Cummins will not fit in a two-wheel drive Ford truck. Prove that wrong. And the second thing is that a small block Ford will not fit in a 61, 62 Comet or Falcon without cutting the firewall. And there it is with an uncut firewall. So now, I don't know what to do next. It's only 12:30 on Saturday. We still have like half a day left. And I've done everything I wanted to do. So maybe we'll just tinker away. So I'd like to put this thing on the ground and see where we're at for drive shaft or oil pan clearance and stuff. But before I do that, I want to just quickly measure our drive shaft length. So it's going to go from, I got it hooked on the little hoop for the U-joint back there. And my splines up here, I've got them poking out about, my little shaft is about 1 inch and a bit out. So that gives us, we're at 59 1/8. So we'll measure the stock drive shaft. I have a sneaking suspicion that the stock drive shaft might work because we use the transmission mount is in the stock location. I don't know how close a C4 is compared to the Cruise-O-Matic, but all we can do is measure. So we need 59 1/8. So then if we measure this guy, let's get it on the U-joint there. So if we go from there to there, 59 1/8. Ooh, this might be a little bit short. Actually, we're at 57 1/8. So that's 2 inches shorter. I don't know if we've got 2 inches of spline on that or not. That'd suck to have to get a new drive shaft made because it's only 2 inches shorter. Unfortunately, you can't make them longer. It's easy to cut them down. I'm going to measure that pinion or that slip yoke and see how far out it will comfortably come. Okay, I've slid this out
to get our 57 1/8. I'm going to put a little mark on there. Slide this out. Oh yeah, that's not enough. That's no good. Okay, so we're going to have to get a drive shaft made. That's all the way in. And at 59 1/8, it was about there. So that I'm comfortable with. That I like. When we had it all the way out, that's not enough. All right, need a drive shaft.
Cool, well, there it is in there. I think it fits pretty good. The only thing that didn't work out was the mechanical fan isn't going to, it's got clearance this way, but it's going to hit that top rad hose. So there's two things we can do. We can slide the radiator up. There's room for it to come up. If we just re-drill these holes a little higher up. So there's that option, or the other option is we can always just put an electric fan on it and call it good. We got to take the engine out one more time. We're gonna paint the engine bay before it goes back in for the final time, and the exhaust manifolds and stuff. They're just mocked up right now. There's only 2 bolts in each one, so we'll paint the manifolds, put them back on with gaskets, sand, clean, paint the engine bay, and then this can go back in for good, and you can start hooking everything up. So I think we'll do that on another video. We're going to call this video right now. So thanks everybody for watching. There's how to put a 302 in a 61 Comet. Make sure to check out the website, LG Speed Custom, to get yourself. We got hot rod shirts, stickers, parts, stuff like that. If you're building a Comet or a Falcon and you want a set of these motor mounts, get in touch with me either on the website or through, I'm on Instagram at LG Customs or Facebook, LG Speed and Custom. So yeah, find me on there and let me know, and we'll get some made for you. So thanks again for watching. Make sure to check out the Wrought Iron Haulers on Bandcamp. The music in this video was done by them. So go support them, and we'll see you on the next video.